Okay, we are live. Wonderful, wonderful. Good morning or good evening, depending on which part of the world um, you are living in, which part of the world you are finding yourself in right now. Um, I have put a pinned question there in the chat, and it says, "How much do you think YouTube normally pays me for a live stream?" And if you have opinions about that, um, you might want to respond to that question. Now, this is not going to be the topic for this live stream, but I saw a few comments. So, and I've seen it's a regular thing, being criticized for making money on YouTube, which is an odd thing, and I think it comes from envy. Um, but how much do you think that I make doing these live streams here? It's different if there have been some very very kind people um, giving me super chats. It happens now and then. So, but apart from that, how much do you think YouTube pays me for doing these live streams? And we're talking ad revenue, right? Yeah. Okay. And we'll get back to that. um, Seasons. And well, of course, there are seasons in nature, but also in life. And I got this idea, or this, I was thinking, we go through seasons in life. And hold on, I will. Okay, I've changed the settings a little bit. So some people have been complaining, and rightly so, that I haven't seen their comment here. Horror business, yes, I am seeing you. I am seeing you. I don't know what YouTube was doing there, but I am seeing you. Wonderful. Okay, so seasons in life, and here's my what I was thinking. Normally, we think about seasons in life as uh, you are born. I guess that would be spring, childhood, and so on. That's spring, and your young adult. Well, your adult years perhaps is summer. I guess um, old age or getting old, my age and up, maybe that's autumn, and old age and death is winter. That's your life. And I think we need to think about that differently, because after winter comes a new spring. And I think that's worth pondering about. It's a new favorite word of mine, pondering. Because we go through phases in life. And, I've been obviously a child and I was a young man. I became a father, and I've been through those years when your kids are growing up. Both my kids are practically adults now. And I think that instead of moving into old age and autumn, why not think about it in a little bit of a different way? Maybe there's an autumn, maybe there's a winter, but there will also be a spring. We go through these phases. Um, and yeah, Wendy, yes. How about winter as your midlife crisis era? Yeah, I think we all go through some kind of midlife crisis. I certainly, maybe not a crisis, but a time where you start understanding that you're not going to be around forever, and it you reconsider some life choices maybe, and so on. And midlife crisis, especially for men, it's this joke. Oh, well, actually, the joke is, oh, he starts going to the gym and he gets a motorcycle. But none of those things are bad. Maybe motorcycle if you're reckless, but why would you be reckless? And going to the gym is obviously a good thing. But sports car, yes, Angela, yeah. um, so yeah, maybe the midlife crisis is your winter, and then you see life in a different way. You're more, thank you, Angela. There is more awareness, and that brings you to spring. You know, and I'm saying this as someone who, and I can tell you, I've been through a few months where I've not been well. I've not been well. I was ill, but I am getting better. And I didn't think I was going to get better, but I'm really getting better. Except one thing, and you're going to laugh, but I feel so sorry for myself. I ate, and I'll have to admit, a bun, sweet bun, and there was, I think, a little pebble in it, a rock, and I hurt my tooth. And that was right now before Easter. The dentist, they had no available time, so I have to wait until after Easter. And I don't know what happened there, but I'm either it's my tooth or yeah, maybe some crystallized sugar or something. I don't know what happened. I can't feel it. Well, I felt around here. I can't feel a crack or anything like that, but it hurt like hell. But anyway, that's not a big deal. um and I can say that because it really isn't. So they will sort that out. But anyway, yeah, so we go through seasons in life. But back to my question, how much do you think that I make from these live streams? Um, you know, not much. Yeah. Well, between 16 and $20 US dollars. That's how much I make from these lives for one live stream after it's been out there for a little while, between 15 and 16 and $20. And it's like, how much do you think this microphone cost? So and if it was not for the ads, I would make nothing. There would be nothing. So that's just how it is. And I find it odd that people say that, oh, you're doing it for the money. If I was doing it for the money, why would I do this? I mean, oh, why? It's insane. Yeah, I can't remember the price for the microphone, but I invested in a very good microphone because people were complaining about the sound. So as you do, then. But anyway, Yeah, so we go through seasons in life, and not only 4 seasons. Well, 4 seasons, but then I think we start again. We go through all the seasons and continuously. It goes well with the understanding of life that we have in the Norse so-called pagan belief system, which is circular. It's not linear. And I think the monotheistic belief systems are more linear, while those belief systems that are more connected with nature, they tend to be circular. And nature is circular. Uh, and I find that interesting. Now, I think oh, almost, hold on. I was going to say something. I forgot my. Hold on. Was it hold on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We are now entering Easter. This is I don't know what is this day now, Thursday, this Thursday morning in Norway. What is it called in English? Um, I don't know, but it's a Christian holiday. This one, but it used to be, obviously the word Easter. It's borrowed from a non-Christian or pre-Christian tradition, as I'm sure you know, as is the things we do, like the symbols of Easter, like the rabbits and the eggs and the yellow color and all of that. It's very it's about fertility and new birth and new life and all of that. So it's interesting to see that we have this mixture of uh, the Christian faith and that symbolism with the pre-Christian faiths and that symbolism. Uh, and you know what? I don't see anything wrong with that. If we don't in Norway, we don't normally have any. Easter is actually not really connected to Christianity here. While Christmas or Yule, as we say here, that's when a lot of people actually go to church because it's tradition, even if they're not Christians. But it's I think, as far as I understand, Easter is a more important holiday for Christians than Christmas is. But we celebrate Easter, at least here in Norway, without any connection to Christianity at all for most people. That's different if you are Christian, uh, of course. But, you know, um, so it's like it's all about the rabbit, it's all about the eggs, the yellow color, and all of that. So I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful, and it's clearly a celebration of fertility. So okay, Holy Thursday, Maundy Thursday. Yeah, okay, thank you, Blue Eyes. That's so that is what it's called in English. Um, uh, Grace says you could listen to a dental healing. I just want to go to the dentist and have them check what's wrong, if there is something wrong, and fix it. um, if I'm not complicated in that regard. I go in there and I say, "Oh, something happened here. Fix it." I don't want to feel any pain. Just fix it. So, but the good thing about that is that I don't feel like eating any more of those sweet buns, and which that's probably good for me. Let's see. I'll scroll up here and we'll just have a chat about whatever, I guess. Yeah. Let's see if we can get back. We are back. Okay. Wonderful. Seems to happen sometimes. Henry says, as a Catholic, don't know. You mean you are Catholic? Don't know what the rabbit and eggs have to do with it. Well, it's probably a kind of a mixture of all the traditions, because Ostara, for instance, used to be a celebration of spring, fertility, new life, and the egg and the rabbit and all of that. It is those are symbols of that. So that's the reason. The sweet bone dog did it. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I guess dentist is expensive here, but what can I do? You just have to sort it out, Yeah, Sharp Canine says rabbits are super breeders. Yes, they are. It's those Russians again. Yeah, I don't know. As I said, this one, I didn't talk about anything touchy. So, but I've started becoming, a little bit paranoid, because the live stream connection will sometimes cut when I talk about the touchy stuff, but it's probably nothing. So yeah, I have noticed, but also I try to remember that, and this is an interesting thing actually. Did you know that the human brain is constantly looking for patterns? We are hardwired to see tracks, to find tracks in nature. We are trackers, and that means that, and this is something you can actually do. It's an experiment. You can well, you probably don't want to do this, but if you put a chair in a living room and you step up onto the chair, stand on the chair, and then you throw something like grains, beans, I don't know, Lego, something small that will scatter around on the floor. You just throw it randomly on the floor, and then you look at it with an open mind. If you do that, I'm sure that you will see patterns in those beans or the grain on the floor. Because that's what we do. We look for patterns. But you know that if you stand on that chair and you throw the beans or the grain, whatever, on the floor, it's random. But we don't like random things as human beings. We want to make sense of things, and we want to see patterns. So and this is why when you go, if you have been learning, in mathematics, if you've been learning about probability, calculating probability, you will know that it's not like we think it is. And we make mistakes all the time when it comes to probability, when it comes to patterns, and so on. And this is why people see more connections than there are in real life. Now, there are connections that we need to be aware of, but it's like not everything is, if we get into conspiracy theory thing, not everything is, as they say, according to plan or all by design. A lot of things are random because that's just the world. So I try to remind myself of that. We should be aware that we probably see more patterns than there are in the world around us and in society. We probably are looking for patterns even. So it's worth remembering. Okay. Now let's see. Yeah. Now, don't throw food on the don't throw food on the floor. It's just to illustrate what the thing about patterns or seeing patterns where there are only random stuff. We have someone from Tasmania here. Wow. Raptor Ranch says, Bjorn, just made rocking chair for my mom. Well, that's awesome. Mr. Sorpo says, jellyfish has been around for millions of years without any brains. Somehow gives me hope for some people. Yeah. Yeah, you can, reading palms or tea leaves for patterns with meaning is all gypsy lore. Yeah, absolutely. But also when it comes to, I can, you probably heard about this one. It was an social experiment. A horoscope, is that what you call it in English? The planets and the signs and all of that. predicting your future, horoscope. And a horoscope was read out to students at the university. I can't remember which one. Yeah, in astrology. So you get a horoscope. I'm pretty sure it's the same in English. And they were reading the horoscope to students in a university, and then they asked them, after a while, I guess, did it come true? Did this come true, the horoscope? And a lot of people, I can't remember the numbers, I remember the principle of this experiment. And a lot of people replied, and I don't know if that was the majority or not, I don't know. But the point is, a lot of people replied, yes, it did come true. It did come true. The thing is, the text, the horoscope that were read to the students, it was the same. It was the same text. They read the exact same text, the same horoscope to everyone. So this is another example of how we are looking for connections and patterns, and we really want that. So they even though according to astrology, you would have needed a horoscope for each astrology sign and so on, but no, they just read the same to all the students, and they said, well, yeah, it did come true. So I find that interesting. For some reason, it seems like mostly women believe in astrology, and that's I don't know why. So this will probably make me unpopular with the women now. So let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Cancelled. I quit, says Angela. Yeah. I'm not saying that astrology is not true. I'm just saying that I haven't seen any proof of it being true. And that was an interesting experiment that they did, I think. Yeah, cold reading is what they call it. It's applicable to anyone, the way it's written. Yeah. And I will add that it's a funny thing where we, at least in this part of the world, you are called naive, stupid, and so on. If, for instance, you believe in astrology, that a lot of people will say that, oh, you're stupid, you're naive, there is nothing to it, you will be called names if you say that. Well, if you say I'm a Norse pagan, you will be called names. And even if you say that, well, there's a symbolism there. It's a symbolism. It's a connection with nature and so on. I don't believe that there is actually a one-eyed man with a long beard sitting in a great golden hall, which would be cool, but That's obviously an image from another time. But so you're being called naive, you're being called stupid, and so on for believing, for instance, in astrology. But if you believe that there was a guy who walked on water and brought the dead back, people back from the dead, that's fine. So, it's like, why is that okay? Why is that fine? Why should that not be criticized? When all it is, these days, but and it, as it should be, everything should be open for criticism. But I mean, why is that okay? And while so if you sit, imagine you sit at a dinner table, lots of guests, a party, and you sit by a table, and to your left is a priest, and he believes that Jesus walked on water and brought the dead back to life. That's fine. And on your right is a woman who believes in astrology, and she should be ridiculed for that. That's not right. That's not right. Why is the priest believing that? Why is that okay, while the woman believing in astrology not okay? So just throwing this out here. Yeah, well, but believing, here comes the flat earth thing again. That's kind of different, because we can observe that the earth is not flat. We have pictures. You can go around the globe, so I think that is different. There are lots of things that we actually know for a fact. This is how it works. We have observed how it works, and so on. But then there are many things we don't know, and I think that things like religion and things like astrology is there to try to make sense of the things that we don't understand. So, and I think that's how it's always been. We try to explain what we cannot explain by believing in stuff, just because we say we believe in this or that. But it can't be proven. It's just a faith. That's why the word faith is used. It can't be proven. It's a faith. We believe this, but we don't know. So Donald disagrees with the earth being a ball or globe. Pictures or images? By who? Okay. Yeah. That's fine. Okay. So I think that also there are limits to what we can comprehend as human beings. Why would it be like I don't think we have 100% perception of the world. Well, I know. Well, it can be proven that we don't, because we can't hear certain sounds, can't see certain colors. So only by that observation, that's a fact. We know that we don't have 100% perception of the world. But there are other things, of course, like are there other dimensions? Are we living side by side with other beings from other dimensions and so on? We wouldn't know, would we? Because we would not be able to observe that. So, yeah, I could go up and check flat Earth for yourself. Yes, I read about that in the news. There was some celebrity woman. Hold on, Katy Perry. Went up there for 10 minutes or something like that, paid a ridiculous price. Yeah, it's not like people are starving or anything on this planet. No. So, yeah. So that's a nice way of spending some money. um, Mrs. Sorpos, yes. White mice, that's the part of multidimensional being that we can actually see according to Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah. Speaking of mice, I have to mention, since Trump is everywhere in the news, everywhere on a daily basis, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of it. But I'll just briefly mention his speech writers. He had this joke in a speech that so much governmental money was being wasted on stupid science like transgender mice. He said transgender mice. And then people have been looking into that. And it was not transgender mice, it was transgenic mice. Now, I will say straight away that I do not support animals being used in research. I do not support that. Hi there, Kurula. But these people, either they are lying or they can't read, or both. I don't know. It was transgenic. That's when you add the genes from other species. You manipulate the genes of the mice, and you do that to have them react in a certain way in the experiments. And I think it's a horrible thing, but they do that. And then the White House, they apparently saw the mistake, and they tried to desperately look into this. And oh yes, they have been doing some research on hormones and their effect on wound healing. So yeah, it's for transgender people and lots of nonsense. They made a mistake, but they won't back down, of course. That seems to be the case with these people. But I looked into it, and I looked at the actual papers. It's transgenic, not transgender. So it's uh, it's it's just ridiculous, Um, yeah, the transgender thing, should it be criticized? Yes, yes, but get your facts right. Get your facts right. Um, so uh, Green-eyed lady says, whether the mice were transgender or transgenic, we don't want to pay for it. Well, now I will say this. Okay, I said already, I do not support animals being used in research. But if you should know that when they do that, they can find cures for diseases that you might get in the future. So if we're talking research being done to find medicines, I think that's a good way to spend taxpayers' dollars. I mean, for obvious reasons. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, animals, of course, have. Givelius says, just to reply to your commentary. Well, animals do, of course, have a perception of fear, pain, and so on. So that's why I do not support that. Yes. Yeah, they pretend they don't, but of course they do. I think it's at some level they don't. Like the jellyfish doesn't have a brain, so it can't. I guess it doesn't know that it has no perception of its own existence. I guess a mosquito, does it have a perception of its own existence? I don't know. I would guess not, but I don't know. But a mammal clearly has a perception of its existence. Um, let's see. Yeah, it's horses. Yeah, horses certainly have a perception of their existence. Yeah, yes. Except for koala bears, they're just so dumb. Yeah. Now, Kingdoms of Koval says the type of animal is relevant to the degree of sentience, with mammals being the most advanced in their self-awareness. Yes. And it's easy for me to say that I do not support it. I don't. But if I was sick, I would support. I mean, I would support. If I was desperate, I would support even experiments on humans. You know, it's it's like, yes, I do see why they are doing this. I see the reason, but I think that it should be very, very limited. You know. Um, uh, so, um, yeah, politicians and so on. Yeah, well, I get it. It's a joke, but it's yeah, this is a very dark thing, I guess, but they've been doing experiments on humans before, of course, in Auschwitz and so on. Um, yeah. Uh, Mike is asking a very interesting question. Do you believe there are people who have the ability to see into the future? Um, well, the honest answer is I don't know. But I think that if you have an extremely objective um, perception of the past and the mathematical knowledge to calculate certain things, you will be able to make extremely accurate guesses about the future. And we talked about patterns, and as human beings, we tend to see patterns everywhere. But there are patterns, and a lot of things tend to follow patterns. And so, with that in mind, yes, I think that you can kind of predict the future quite accurate. Um, um, let's see here. Barnabas says, if you're not fully human, you will be undeemable by your creator. Okay. I think that's an interesting thing as well. The idea that Homo sapiens, our species, is somewhat special is ridiculous. It's ridiculous because we believe that we are so special that we rule the earth, while in reality, we have been on this planet for like the time we have been here it's like nothing. It's like compared to the dinosaurs, it's like nothing. And we're not even the dominant species on the planet. I read somewhere that which being, if you can call it that, is the most dominant on the planet. It's not humans, it's bacteria. And yeah, we have some characteristics, sorry, some things about us that is special. We have a huge intellect, so much so that it shaped our skulls. We have a little jaw and a big head. But the idea that we were created in a God's image, come on, there is no logic. There is no logic there. And the idea that we are the only species that will have an afterlife, it's ridiculous. Why the hell would it be like that? Why? There is no logic there. No logic. a dog has the same self-awareness, not the same intellect, but the same self-awareness. It has feelings. It has it's in that regard. There is no difference between a dog and a human being. But we, as human beings, we have this inflated ego, and we think that we are so special, and we're the only species that will sit by the table of the gods, or a god. It's why? Why? That's I if there is an afterlife, I don't think there is any logic to that. Why would it be like that? Um, you know. Um, so, yeah. Yeah, some people get all worked up emotionally when I say this. Yeah, Claude, you're mentioning this as a theory that they have, I guess, that dogs don't have a spirit, humans have the spirit. Yeah, well, that's the theory. That's the logic they have constructed, I think. But that's like, no, there is no logic to that at all. Yeah, well, it's that's a thing that, as far as I know, the thing that, where only humans have a spirit, if you will, that is only seen in the Abrahamic faiths, I think. I don't know all religions, of course, but it's kind of unique to that. In every other faith I've encountered, no, I might be wrong there, but it's early. That's my excuse. And what I'm trying to say is that when you have a faith connected to nature in a profound way, you don't think like that. You see that there is a spirit in everything. Blue Eye says animals have only ritual, humanity has free will. Yeah, you see, that's the technique that you're using. You construct some concepts that have no real meaning. It's just words, and that is those act as the missing pieces in your logic, because there is no logic there. And I'm sorry if that's a bit harsh, but that's just how it is. Carola says animals have a deep spiritual connection. They have better senses than we have. Yeah. So I think that, and this is a bit far out. This is really very alternative, okay? But some of you might have observed certain behaviors in dogs and cats, the typical pets, when someone has died. They're not there anymore. Now, I'm not going to claim anything supernatural here. I'm just throwing this out there to those people who think that animals have no spirits. they can. It's almost like they feel a presence of the deceased one. You know, I don't know why. Maybe it's something that we as human beings, we want to see that in them. I don't know, but think about that as you wish. But just saying that we human beings, we're so special, we have something that other animals don't have for some reason. There is no logic in that. There is no logic in that. It's something that needed to be put there, this separation between animals and human beings. It had to be put there to justify destruction of nature, which you don't really see among, for instance, hunter-gatherers. Well, yes, they did hunt some species to extinction, but what we're seeing now is extinction on a different level, of course. And if we're going to believe that there is something more to this than just the physical part, that if we're going to believe in things like soul and spirit or whatever you want to call it, free will if you want, then you can't isolate that to human beings. It's interesting I know it's Christians like to say that God gave humans free will, which is ridiculous. But if you observe people, you can tell that most people, well, of course, we don't know what's going on in their heads, of course, but what they're thinking. But if we observe people, you can tell that, well, the assumption would be they do not have free will. They do as they're told. They conform to rules, regulations, what is expected of them, social norms. I would argue much more so than a dog, because a dog will do what it wants to right there and then. So no, it would be great if human beings acted according to free will, but when you observe people clearly, that's not the case. Because people they live their lives not the way they would want to live their lives, but much more. Blue Eye says, "You're not giving up on this one, are you? That's still free will." No, it's not. It's not. That's the opposite of free will. That's just being part of a group, and the uncomfortable truth is that most of us, we do not make the choices for our own lives. Those choices are made for us. So, Twirch Walker says, we humans have way more of a ritual life than animals. Yeah, we do. So if you take away the artificial stuff that we surround ourselves with, the screens, the entertainment, all the digital stuff, the buildings. Basically, if you take away all of those distractions, what are you left with? Are you left with free will? No, you're left with a desperate person, someone who desperately wants to get back into the group. If you, I have two dogs, and they have a very strong hunting instinct. I can't let them loose here because they would go hunting in the woods for hours upon hours. But the property is large, it's fenced in, they can run around here. But if I opened the gate and I said, do as you want, they would do exactly as they want. They would first run around and see if there are any animals they can hunt. But then they would go exploring. Then they would lie down in the grass. They would lie in the sun sleeping. They would do exactly as they want. Me, I would not do exactly as I want. I have things I worry about. I worry too much. I'm a worrier. And I will be thinking about money. I would be thinking about, well, now I'm worrying about my tooth, and I regret eating that bun. If I hadn't eaten that bun with whatever was in it, a little rock or whatever, I would not have this problem. I would think about that. Do you think a dog thinks about that? Actually, one of our dogs, he broke a tooth. He didn't mind. So, it's like, who has free will? Is it me or the dogs? Not me. I wish I was more like, I would have a lot more freedom and a lot more free will if I just acted like my dogs. So, yeah, okay. Blue Eyes, you've been here for a long time, so we will all be treating you with respect, of course. But I will encourage you to think about the concept of free will. What is that? Do we have that? We should. I mean, we really should. And what is it? What's different with us compared to other animals? And I get it. You don't think that we are animals, but I mean, what else would we be? What else would we be? Barnabas says, most people behave like animals these days. Yes. Yeah, I guess you are correct there. But it's an interesting concept. What is free will? Do we have free will? What does it mean? How would we live if we had true free will? What then? I mean, so okay. I'm going to end this live stream now. I want to thank you for joining this interesting discussion. And yeah, we'll talk soon. And if someone here, if I didn't reply to your comment in the chat, maybe I just didn't see it. not it doesn't mean that YouTube is shadow banning you or something like that. I think sometimes there are comments I don't see, and I'm sorry about that. I'll try my best to keep an eye on the chat. Yes, Green-Eyed Lady says bye, and everyone, yes, have a wonderful evening. And no, Blue Eyes, nothing about Christianity is banned here, as you are proof of. But I have had to, and the moderators, we have had some incoming, lots of incoming Bible quotes and all of that. It kind of took over the whole live stream. It's happened a few times, and then we have to tidy up a little bit. So that has happened in the past. Because then what happens when they do that is that people start leaving the live stream because it's kind of taken over by, and it becomes stressful. So we will meet again very soon. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening. And check out the video on the main channel that I uploaded yesterday. It's linked to in the video description. And I used at least the words are kind of from the Christian faith. Count your blessings. I think that's a good saying, So if you're interested in that, you can check out that video. Blue Eyes, you're pushing it a little bit. Did you really have to do that? So sorry, snowflakes. There are no snowflakes here. You being here is proof of that. So we'll leave it at that. But it's not necessary to be disrespectful of the other people here. Okay. Okay. Please remember that next time. Wonderful. Bye-bye.